age, including 30% of Republicans. Trump turns 80 in less than 4 months. 54% of Americans think he's not mentally sharp enough for the job, which is up from 45% a few months ago. Um, but it's hard to tell with Trump because he's always so full of crap. You can't tell whether he's losing it or whether he's just normal for him.
Well, that could be normal for him, but I know we've been talking a lot about ICE on this show and everything like that. But an ex-ICE instructor testified that the agency slash officer training lied to Congress, and the ICE officer training is deficient and broken, is what a former agency lawyer is telling a congressional forum. So ICE whistleblower warns new recruits are receiving defective training. So he
New
says the training
recruits
is
were
broken, and
supposed
OpenAI faces questions about mass shooter and everything like that.
new recruits were supposed to get 582 hours of training, which is about 15 40-hour weeks. They cut 240 hours out of that, which takes it down to 9 weeks, though there are reports of people being put out on the street with as little as 4 weeks of training. So, yeah, all sorts of essential information has been cut out of the training, and there are reports that people would get let out to be ICE officers even if they failed the testing of their knowledge of what they're supposed to, so we're letting anybody be a freaking ICE officer.
Sounds
Also,
like it.
terrible background checks. That you don't, you can have a criminal background. You didn't have to graduate high school, and the background check won't necessarily catch it.
That makes sense. Dr. Treves, how hard is it for you to get into the country when you visit the U.S.? Because it looks like the DHS has suddenly reversed its course on suspending TSA pre-checks and everything like that. So I just wondering, when you come from Bangladesh, and I don't know the last time you were here, I think it was last year or maybe the year before, and everything like that, how hard is it for you to maneuver to get around from Bangladesh to the United States in terms of security and all the things you got to do on both sides, both the Bangladesh side as well as on this side?
No, when I visit USA and Canada last year, so it's looked like it was very easy. I landed in the New York and I get into USA through New York, and then I visited California, and from California I visited Vancouver's. So for me, as I have a real invitations and all of the things, I find that this U.S. immigration was very friendly for me and for my get into this U.S. But right now I'm hearing many things changes. Even Bangladesh B1, B2 visa status and many things is changes. Then student visas and other things is changes. Then they stop the immigrations from Bangladesh. So yeah, right now many complexities is happening. That is the things I discussed in the last episode, that this time actually a country like China, they're heavily attracting the talented people from Bangladesh. Even as per my discussion, you can check the news of Bangladesh, that our education minister, he do sign a MOU and contract with China, because China want to train 10,000 Bangladeshi young peoples, those who can get training by the vocational educations and so on, and they will learn Chinese language. China are investing in this project. So I said that what I'm observing from Asia Pacific, from South Asia, China heavily investing for education, for healthcare, for Belt and Road Initiative, and the ratio of getting to USA is declining because of this immigration complexities and so on.
That makes a lot of sense. I see another story where the body of the civil rights leader Jesse Jackson will lie in state in South Carolina, since they were denied a request by Mike Johnson, Speaker Mike Johnson, to have it lie in honor in the Capitol. So it'll be lying in state at the South Carolina State House, and the flags will be lowered there to have staff and everything like that. Sasha, this evening we'll be hearing from uh, President Trump and everything like that. So I know that he's been still dealing with those tariffs in Canada and everything like that. So what are you expecting to hear from him, and what do you hope that you hear from him and everything like that? Because apparently the U.S. has breached trade deals, and Europe is ready to retaliate, folks are saying, and even top trade lawmakers told CNBC that recently as well. So what are you hoping to hear from him? And are you even going to listen to this speech this afternoon, or the alternative speech, which I understand will be carried by Midas Touch?
Okay, I will be listening to both speeches of Trump and the Midas Network. I will listen also to commentaries on both speeches. But before I would listen to commentaries, I would listen to speeches themselves. Because I want to have my own opinion. I want to hear everything by myself. And only then I would venture into some commentaries here and there. Now, I don't have any hopes from Trump's speech. He will go on, the America is great and the economy is great and everything what he does is great and everything is great. I know that, and unfortunately I will have to listen to that for some time, especially yesterday he warned that it will be a long speech, regrettably, but there is nothing you can do about it. What I do hope really is that there will be plenty of empty seats. That's what I really hope. And I hope that effect of certain Democrats bringing the girls who were
The Epstein victims.
the Epstein victims, absolutely. I really hope that that will play its effect, because this is going to be evening headed by the president, who is at the head of the pedophile government. Almost all people there are implicated in so-called class of Epstein or Epstein class. They have all ties, economic, business ties, all kinds of ties. So today, America is ruled by a sect of the pedophiles, criminals, and at the top of all that is the top criminal, convicted felon, conman, and I don't think it will go on forever. Okay, so America got Trump, they got Trump. Now it's a payback time.
So Trump will claim this is the greatest economy in U.S. history.
Of course.
It's not. Since he announced tariffs in April, the U.S. has added virtually no new jobs. But he's, he's going to say the opposite. But that's what he's going to do.
That's
so,
what he's going to do.
4 years in, here are some Ukraine war numbers: 2 million people killed or wounded in the war. Among the dead, 325,000 Russian troops, 55,000 Ukrainian soldiers, 15,000 Ukrainian civilians, including 740 children.
I forgot to mention that today is exactly 4 years since Russia invaded Ukraine. And what did this criminal? The criminal put the picture of Putin right into the Oval Office. What that says about him? He neglects public opinion, the opinion of leaders in the world. By the way, the top U.S. general, chief of staff, he warned Trump not to start any actions in Iran because there is no support whatsoever. Not single country supports U.S. in this so-called military action on Iran, if there will be one. And surprisingly, see, he holds his card very close to the chest, so he wants people to guess. Will he attack Iran or he will not attack Iran, or so on? And it goes on until State of the Union.
So the thing that might stop Trump from attacking Iran turns out to be poop. There is an aircraft carrier called the Gerald R. Ford, a giant ship that doesn't have enough toilets that work for 4,500 sailors, and they're wading through pee and poop. There's low morale. And they've been out at sea for double the time they're supposed to have been out at sea, and they want to go home, and they've been clogging the remaining toilets, so it's a poop disaster.
Sounds like a poop disaster. Speaking of disasters,
I, I just want to ask something regarding Epstein files. What we see when it's create a lot of criticize in Asia Pacific regarding this Epstein files and all of the big people, scientists, politicians, many more people, rich people, they have engagement with this Epstein file web and all of the things, and it creates some misunderstand and miscommunications regarding this relationship with this North America. Even like I do not know, I find even few of the scientist communities, let's say Transhumanist Association, I do podcast with them and I find their name in these Epstein files. So how, as a North American, how you identify these Epstein files issues, how it create impact in your business and your politics? Uh, yeah.
I think it went much farther than just North American issue or American issue or so. There are a few countries in Europe that start their own investigation into all this affair. And these countries, if they will do it diligently and advance far enough, could be very, very harmful for Trump and his people. One of these countries is Poland. Poland categorically asked Ambassador of Poland not to meddle in Polish affairs. Poland is going to do whatever is right for Polish people. And in that regard, it doesn't care about Trump and his administration. They will do only whatever they will find. By the way, a similar situation in France. French ambassador Kushner Sr., another convicted felon and criminal, he was trying to teach France what to do or what not. So he was called by French Parliament and asked immediately to stop any meddling in French politics or else. So people in the world are getting more and more dissatisfied with the present American regime. And therefore, obviously, you see there are no support for any military operation against Iran. You see the closest ally, UK, denied a use of its air base, one in England and one in Diego Garcia in Indian Ocean, to be used for any attacks on Iran. And I was listening, Dr. Sharif, I was listening to what you said earlier. I don't think it's a wise policy of yours trying to have some bridges with the United States or so on. Don't forget that geographically, you are obviously in the zone of China influence, not United States. United States couldn't care less
No,
about Bangladesh and many other countries. And
I
also
just,
those who will make it to United States, like yourself or any others, you will be second-class citizens, United States. You will be at the lowest social group there. So do you think you want to spend your time, your talent, your knowledge to become a second-class citizen?
okay, I just want to add some political informations. Maybe you can identify
Okay.
something. I do not know, is it true or not true? But we are observing from Bangladesh. Bangladesh has a very big agreement for this tariff and all of the things with USA, right? And one of the advisor of the previous government, he made the deals in between USA and Bangladesh. His name is Dr. Kohli. And now it's a big issue because he is one and only man. After this election, he again elected. It's not elections; it's actually selected Mr. Khalilur Rahman as a foreign minister for Bangladesh. and everybody actually astonished why he become foreign minister for Bangladesh. And there is a rumor and there is a discussion, there is a news and many things happening in Bangladesh because there is an agreement in between USA and Bangladesh. Bangladesh has to buy $22 billion product from USA, including their aircraft, including agricultural product, and so on. And not me, the political analyst in the media, they are discussing that America choose Dr. Khalilur Rahman as a foreign minister for Bangladesh because they want to ensure business deal in between USA and Bangladesh. And under this agreement, he again become foreign minister for Bangladesh. So honestly speaking, country like Bangladesh is very small. This is reality. In terms of influence in global politics and diplomacy, definitely maybe Bangladesh do not have much more influence like India. So this is reality that right now Bangladesh is a very strong ally for USA. Very strong.
Bangladesh is small in terms of land area, but pretty big in terms of population. You have 2% of the world's one person in 50 on Earth is from Bangladesh.
Yeah, no, I agree. But in terms of influence, right now, I think Trump administrations, after the student revolutions, they create a very clear influence over Bangladesh economy and Bangladesh politics. That's for I'm sure. China definitely has a Belt and Road initiative that, like the Chinese ambassador, they are discussing, hey, we do not want interference of other country. Maybe they are discussing about USA, but this is very clear under this tariff agreement, under this deal in between. Definitely, it's under non-disclosure agreement. I am not the right person who can give all of the analysis, but it's look like even in the politics, even in the economy, USA go for clear control over Bangladesh. Anyway, this is my analysis.
All right. So Sasha, NVIDIA earnings come out tomorrow. There's been a pullback in AI because there's some reports that AI is going to lead to a sucky near future. One analyst, one company said that it could lead to 10.2% unemployment by 2028.
Maybe even earlier. I think unemployment is increasing even now as we speak. And what's happening by 28, you can only imagine, especially if Trump administration will continue to do the same thing what they're doing now. He's got a decision from Supreme Court controlled by Republicans that these tariffs are illegal. He cannot make the tariffs because it's almost like quasi tax on American people. So only Congress can actually do it. So Trump was offered, so make a deal with Congress and continue to do your tariffs. So what he says is, I don't need any Congress for my tariffs. I can do it myself. So this is complete disregard for Congress, for Supreme Court, for just anything what makes America a really great country. So he's going against everything, against Constitution, it's a convicted felon, it's a criminal, and there is no other way that he would behave any differently.
He's also going against history. The Great Depression started bad and became the Great Depression when the U.S. started throwing out like universal tariffs against the whole rest of the world. It's a bad idea. They maybe worked in the 1800s, but they haven't worked for the past century.
They haven't worked for the last century or something like that. But the other thing that he's doing, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts about that, is he is dismantling the institutions. Because one of the other stories that I didn't get to is that he's expanded his efforts to dismantle the education department, which is how a lot of people use the resources of the education department to get to college and everything. So he's moving their work to other agencies, but he hasn't yet reassigned more employees. So who knows where these employees will be going, but he is
Republican politicians
to other U.S. agencies.
Republican politicians do not like public education. They want more power turned over to private schools, especially religious private schools. And it's bad for America. America had a great half century from World War II on. And one reason was because we freaking pushed hard for hardcore public education, especially in math and science. That has given us all the tech that we and the rest of the world enjoy. But the Republicans want to, take that whole thing apart. You've got Linda McMahon, the wrestling lady, in charge of the Department of Education, with her mandate, like Trump gave her the mandate to scuttle the DEA, to just take it apart, to destroy it. And that includes stuff like they no longer are investigating rapes on college campuses. But if somebody gets raped at college and the college is dragging its feet or trying to cover it up, because that's what some colleges do, the DEA is supposed to, not the DEA, the Department of Education is supposed to step in and investigate and penalize the school if necessary. But they haven't done that since Trump has been president. That whole function has been wiped out.
Remember Epstein class. That's the Epstein class which rules today, United States of America. That's a problem of everything. It's a politics, it's economy, it's culture, it's everything. So don't even go there.
So and they're the Republicans in Congress are protecting another kind of sexual do-badder, this Tony Gonzalez, who's a Republican congressman out of Texas, has a brief affair with one of his aides. And then he starts texting her, asking for nude pictures, asking her what her favorite sex positions are. And when did she kill herself? Well, she killed herself. And by setting herself on, she covered herself with gasoline, lit a match. She's dead. And there was some of the women, all the Democrats and 3 Republican women in Congress are saying this guy needs to resign immediately. Mike Johnson, is the Speaker of the House, says no, and he needs more investigation. Not really. He doesn't need more investigation.
Well, speaking of investigation,
but he's trying to hold on to him in Congress because the Republicans have only the barest majority, 218 out of 435 or 432, and they can't afford to lose anybody, so they're going to keep this creep in Congress.
Speaking of investigations, this one actually surprised me. Maybe it didn't surprise you because you're in California and you follow a lot of the California news. But apparently, Rob Reiner's son was on court and he pleaded not guilty to his parents' murders, even though I think it was his siblings that found the body and we're having evidence that he.
Yeah, okay. The guy has had severe mental problems for decades. So I assume I don't know, we don't hear much about not guilty by reason of insanity anymore. That used to be a huge, at least on the lawyer shows, that used to be huge. In real life, I don't know. But I assume that part of his defense would be that he is not culpable because his brain is all messed up.
And that would make sense because they're saying that his attorney, Mark Garagos, is saying that he won't go to trial. And that's probably what they're saying that he'll probably wind up in an insane institution or something like that, and all on those lines. And speaking of interesting news from different parts of the entertainment world, I did see that John Davidson, a Tourette syndrome campaigner, apparently shouted a racial slur at the BAFTAs and everything like that. And Center Studios say they raised the N-word use with BAFTA immediately, as Google was deeply sorry for the offensive notification. But I guess BBC and BAFTA are apologizing to Michael B. Jordan and Delray Lindo after this Tourette syndrome activist shouted a racial slur. So do you get a pass because you are dealing with a ailment? Because Tourette syndrome is an ailment and everything like that. As a matter of fact, Brian Shulman, who's one of our network people, has got that as well and everything like that. So do you get a pass, Rick, because you've got a certain ailment?
It's something people need to talk about. Like, not everybody with Tourette's yells out the N-word. Right. It can be twitches, it can be obsessive behaviors. I've got OCD where like I have some, I don't yell out the N word, but I will turn clockwise preferentially. If I have a choice between turning left and turning right, I want to go right. When I was 6 years old, my parents went on a trip, and when they came back, I was spinning in circles and chanting to God. And I saw a whole series of shrinks. But it can be a lot of different stuff. But people, kids love somebody with Tourette's because, if you're a third grader and somebody in your class is yelling out the F word and the S word and just all the worst possible things, that's good times for everybody.
So everybody over there is just saying how dare they, but then at the same time they're going like, there's no telling what might come out of that kid's mouth and everything like that, because that is part of what goes on in that space and all along those lines. But yeah, this hearing, this State of the Union ought to be quite interesting, and we ought to be hearing different things. I did see that some of the
they should bring that BAFTA guy. I'd like somebody to make the BAFTA guy a guest at the State of the Union and cause some chaos there. That would be interesting.
Yeah, but we've got Jacoby,
especially given how freaking racist Trump is.
Yep. Hey, Jacoby, what are you expecting? Are you going to be watching the State of the Union or the Alternative Midas Touch one? And what are you expecting to hear from President Trump as he gets ready to take the stage?
Well, the only thing he's going to do is his normal hits from his campaign trail. That's all he uses it for. He used it for that last time. So he's just going to do his greatest hits, complain, yell, call people enemies of the country. They are disloyal to the country when really all he's talking about is being loyal to him. He doesn't care about all this stuff. He's going to do his normal thing.
So, Kim, I see you here. I think he's probably going to go after the Supreme Court. He's already gone after them in press conferences. Even though he appointed many of the members, he's probably going to be like they were disloyal. I think he said they were unpatriotic and everything like that. So what is your take on his reaction to the Supreme Court? Because apparently he's going to go after them and probably talk about some other decisions that they made that didn't come in his favor. Who knows? He might even try to disband the court. I don't think he's got that authority.
One thing we know is that Trump will spew lies and BS faster than he can be fact-checked. In fact, most channels, showing the speech will not do real-time fact-checking. And another missed opportunity will be, we'll see, where the Democrats will have a rebuttal from Abigail Spanberger, the Virginia governor. Now, in the past, every party has dropped the ball in their rebuttal. There have been some terrible rebuttals. I hope that Spanberger does a better job. And there's also, this time around, there is the alternate State of the Union. It's right. Like the Kid Rock version where they didn't like the Super Bowl half with Bad Bunny, so they put on an alternate show. The Democrats are putting on this extravaganza with a bunch of different speakers for people who don't want to watch the State of the Union. Will that draw any significant viewership? I don't know. Will anybody score any hits?
No, nobody's going to score anything, because what's going to happen is it's just like, well, in past years, State of the Union happens and then you have the rebuttal. So I understand the other rebuttals that take place. That's a normal thing for everything. But this isn't going to score anything. This is going to more so lose people for Trump, because people are hoping for something more unifying. At this moment, the electorate, the independents, and everybody, there's a shift happening. And Trump can't figure out how to handle the shift, because that's not what he does. He likes to go on attack and say, hey, this person is evil coming for you. So he's using the old trope of they're coming for our jobs. And that's his whole thing. And plus with the Epstein files happening, because that's turned a lot of his MAGA base off. With the wars happening, that's turned even more of the MAGA base off. So you have a lot of the independents that are already turned against him. He's in 2016, I think they pointed out, I think it was in 2016, he had it was like 30 some odd percent of the Hispanic vote. In 2020, he had it was even more, 30. I think it went up like a point or two. And then in 2024, he had 40 some odd percent of the Hispanic vote. Well, that right now today has dropped in half. So, and they pointed that out because of what's going on in Texas, because right now, when they redistricted everything, they tried to kick out all the Democrats. Well, that Democrat is now winning still in those districts. And that's due to the policies and what he has done. So he's going to go in. And based off of what he said the other day, when he said, "Oh, there's a silent majority. People aren't appreciating me, but I think it's just those people being loud. But there's a silent group, 80 million who love me."
Nixon had a silent majority that was real. Trump's silent majority is much smaller. I think a lot of people may tune into the State of the Union to see what happens if there's a lapse in decorum. It first happened under Obama, where a Republican congressman shouted, "You lie," at Obama. And Obama just skated over it. Trump.
Well, I think Trump can't skate over it, though.
Yeah, I think he might go get a little crazy, and I think people are interested in seeing what he does with the Epstein victims and the audience, and people are.
There's a new issue on the table right now, and I don't know if you have been able to discuss it yet, but it's Ryan Swank's testimony, the whistleblower with ICE, and
we talked about that briefly.
It's pretty damning because you now have Republican senators who are backpedaling really hard because of this testimony, because it's very damning on them right now, because it's literally saying that, you've literally made people law enforcement who are not trained properly for law enforcement, but who were also trained to violate the Constitution and violate the human rights in the Constitution, and to violate your citizen rights by saying, yeah, you can go in their houses, you can terrorize them, you can tear it up. But there was no training.
So
it's not just the Constitution. They're not even receiving adequate firearms training. They're being set out on the street with guns that they don't know how to use properly.
So and told that they can use their vehicles to chase and take people down, when in reality that is not police training, and they're being paid ridiculous amounts of money, whereas our real police force, who get the real training, the real proper training to truly protect the people of the United States, are getting paid pennies compared to these guys who are just nothing but a pack of untrained dogs. So I think, that I've witnessed a few Republicans last night come online or they're doing TV interviews, the senators, and they're going, hey, we should have corrected this. We should have. They're all doing we should have, which means they knew. But they knew. We know they knew.
I've got numbers here. So in the state of California, before you put a cop out on the street, and that cop is on probation, they need a minimum of 664 hours of training. So ICE was supposed to get 582 hours of training. They got rid of 240 hours of training. And in some cases, they got as little as about 160 hours of training, 4 weeks, and no effective background checks.
So
Bernie Fife had more training than they do, but what gets me is the amount of money that they're paid. But what these senators are failing to do is take responsibility. The results of that lack of proper training with police, men handed a badge with guns and the authority to do whatever they want, was executing and murdering innocent people. And they all, including the senators who knew that this was happening and say we should have, they all need to be held accountable for this. They all need to be removed.
The real problem, again, we knew all this. Everything that you've stated, we knew they weren't getting training. We knew that.
But it's
they even
testified
told
now.
us they weren't
It's
even getting training.
testified. Right. It's
Well,
testified.
all that stuff we knew. Everything that's
Right.
going on, we knew. We talked about it. But the
We
problem
did,
is,
but the ignorant
No.
people ignored it.
but what I'm saying is, we talked about it. We knew it. This is the FAFO. We
Right.
talked about it even during the run up to the election. We talked about these things going on, and these things were going to happen. But the problem came into be is because we were in this whole fandom setup, this whole tribalism and everything, that my team must win. I don't care what my team is.
Exactly.
This is when even Dr. Shreve pointed out about the anti-Muslim views that were very, I mean, it was obvious. And all this stuff was taking place and we talked about it. But now it's starting to come through. And that's why Trump's poll numbers are tanking. It's during election season. This is why all these Republican senators that you see on TV it wasn't me, I didn't know. Oh, well, they knew. They were a part of it. They voted for it. They were told about it.
They supported it.
We didn't care. They didn't care until Epstein fractured the base of Trump. Once that fractured, then everything started coming up. Because honestly, I love Sasha to death. Sasha and I went back and forth, heated arguments, over and over, over and over Israel. He and I went back and forth. But at this moment, I can say Sasha and I won't go back and forth like that. Because honestly, we're pretty much saying the same thing now. Why? Because something happened and that fractured that view and opened up a view for both of us. And that's what happened in Trump. Once that fracture happened, MAGA started seeing something that they did not vote for. So now everything that trickles in, there's a problem. They're starting to see with ICE. ICE was good until they shot a white kid. ICE was great until they shot a white kid.
Well,
Murdered him in the streets on live TV.
Well, it's not even just the
Do you know,
kids.
for example, we talked about
humans.
how Rick just pointed out the training that police officers get, and and all the good training about. We knew that ICE wasn't getting that training, but also if you correlate it to, you know, and it's Black History Month, so I got to bring in a little Black history. The demonization, that the over policing that the Black community gets. What's going on is the canary in the coal mine that the Black community's been talking about, that's been happening to them over and over. But now it's on press, and now people are, it could be me. So
but also just the attack
happens,
on Minnesota alone, just the pure onslaught assault. But you know, the political parties allow their political egos to exceed their moral obligations to the people. They have a moral obligation to the people when they take office. But when they sit there now and they're backtracking with this, sad, I'm so sorry, we should have known better, we should have corrected, this is the word of the senator used this morning, we should have corrected what was going on with ICE, which meant he knew that man needs to be removed from office. Okay, all of them, anyone who knew and now are coming back and said we could have, we should have. No, because innocent people were killed because of the lack of police training, the lack of integrity that was used to form a military for Trump and his goons. And this was a military formed, okay? And that is a terrorist act on our country, and that is treason. Everything that just happened, everything that whistleblower talked about was treason against you, against Mark, against any visitor that comes to this country. That was treason against this country, and those senators stood behind it. That's what needs to change.
That treason will not be punished in any possible way.
Yeah, just like Epstein, is it? Yeah.
Absolutely, because the Epstein class is ruling United States of America today. Look at different reactions around the world and in USA. Look at UK. Prince Andrew, who is no longer the prince, he was absolutely devastated by the due process and you can almost predict what's going to happen to him. And the former ambassador to the United States was arrested and detained, I should say. And now many countries. I've heard very interesting story about Poland yesterday. Poland started its own full-scale investigation about the Epstein affair.
Well, and Epstein isn't the only problem. The files is one, but if you look at the timeline I put together, there were more organizations because the sex trade for children is huge. It's trillions of dollars. And there were little other, I shouldn't say little, but Epstein was big, but he got caught. But there were other organizations. Matt Gaetz got busted for sex trafficking children from Romania. The only person that went to prison for all of it, and he was part of it, was Joel Greenberg because they were partners. But you've got so many different organizations, not just Epstein's, but you got to take a look at all of them. Jean-Luc Brunel, which a lot of people really didn't pay attention to his name in the beginning, was huge in this and actually helped Epstein a lot while he was still in jail. And when Epstein came out, they really were wealthier than before he went in. And they bought another island. They bought more planes, more helicopters, a couple of mansions for their hubs. I mean, they were killing it. They had people set up nonprofit organizations to do all the transactions. And you know what? When you watch Les Wexner, do not sit there and go, poor Les, because Epstein gave him $46 million in his nonprofit just before he went to jail the first time. 46 million. That 46 million was not stolen. He put it in the nonprofit he set up for Les and his wife. Right after that, Les and his wife opened up another nonprofit charity and moved that money over there. So they were all about nonprofits because they're hidden entity and they are tax free to do all of this if you have good accountants. But that's how they were doing the
it all works only under present administration. There will be a change of power scheme, even midterm elections, and there will be real investigations, and they must, the most important role in this investigation is follow the money. This is why the special counsel, if you remember, Robert, what's his name, who was conducting investigation of Trump in
Mueller.
Yes, Mueller. What he lacked authority to follow the money. He couldn't do that, and without that, he couldn't unravel all this crazy spider web of everything what was happening.
There are bank statements. Yeah.
Well, speaking of
there are
following
bank
the
statements because one of the DAs from the Virgin Islands who got fired for filing the lawsuits, but she was filing the lawsuits on behalf of all the victims. She filed it against the banks, which was great because all of the bank records had to be submitted. All of the bank emails had to be submitted. And that was the first case I read. It was a lot of and it's still ongoing, or it was still ongoing.
Yeah,
but in 2020, in 2023, they were doing a lot of subpoenas. Elon Musk was on the list, but they were going through the bank statement. That's what she was doing. And she was going through and following all of the money transactions. But you can see, it was interesting to me. They went back pretty far, and you can see when Epstein was the first time arrested in 2006, you can see him hiring every attorney, retaining every attorney in the city. And I text Nick about it, and I go, I already knew what he was doing, but I wanted Nick's opinion. Nick goes, yeah, he's hoarding attorneys. That's so the attorneys couldn't represent any of the victims.
You pay a retainer to all the best attorneys.
Right.
I want to go back to ICE for a second and ask Jacoby.
Me too.
Jacoby, your sister is SWAT, right?
Yep.
And she's a cop, and when SWAT gets together every day, like you see it on cop shows, the head of the department, is the head of the squad. They have a plan. They get briefed about what they're going to do, why how they're going to do it, and ICE doesn't get any of that. What you get is I did I worked in America's largest bar for a few years. It was like a $200,000 square foot beer garden with 20 bouncers, and when you have that many bounce, I mean, like you get little clumps, and I'm sure this happened in ICE, little clumps of thugs and yahoos who aren't given instructions from above. They come up with their own objectives. And if you got a little clump of idiots, 4 idiots out on the street, no training, no guidance, they will decide themselves what they should do, how they should do it, and those decisions will be super bad.
Mhm. Yeah, because they've not been given any legal training. You know, one of the things that they do in the police academy or in any of the forensic research, and I've got family member in those areas, is they train you on the law. You know, what are the laws that you have to abide by yourself? Not and the other thing is that they're all taught that, you know, they need to protect the make our streets safe. ICE was just handed a badge like a bunch of renegades saying you're legal to do whatever you want. But I want them, and I want the senators and everyone to be held liable for the lives that were lost in this reckless act.
Yeah, it's not
Because
just
that
2
was
people.
negligence by our senators, negligence by our president, negligence by everyone.
3 people have
Sorry,
died.
I have
because
to
of
leave
ICE.
now for the
Not just 3,
Ukrainian
there are
show.
like
No,
there are like
I didn't
47.
mean 3. I meant 3 dozen people have died either in ICE custody or on the street. where
Yeah,
ICE is-
the names are coming in now because there are
Okay,
some that you
I'd like
never
to
read
mention
about.
something. I'm going now to Ukrainian show. Today marks
Oh, yeah.
4 years exactly of Russian invasion of Ukraine. And what Trump did, he installed a picture of Putin in the Oval Office. That alone tells you of what kind of disgusting person he is. See you
All
later.
right, one more thing about cops.
there.
Like
I haven't tuned
policing,
in.
policing has an apprenticeship system where there's this ABC show that's pretty goofy. It's called The Rookie, but it does show a lot of the procedures involved in training new cops. And you go to the academy and you don't just get put on the street. You were assigned to be in a squad car with somebody who has a decade or more of policing experience, who spends like 6, 8, 10 months with you, teaching you the finer points of how to be a cop on the street. There's none of that with ICE. It's the blind leading the motherfucking blind.
Yeah, they hired, you know, thousands and thousands of people and just threw them out there saying, do whatever you want. Here's your badge. I mean, that's wrong. I mean, and the other thing that was mentioned by the senator, he said that he is disappointed because they didn't go after the cartels. They didn't go after the criminals. They went after the hardworking people, the grandmas, the people who were trying to get their citizenship
Because
properly.
they had quotas.
They didn't go after the criminals, and that's
Well,
what
They had quotas. You got to
Well,
bring in X
again-
number of people every day. You're going to go for the low hanging fruit. You're going to hit Home Depot.
But
But that's no
just to
excuse.
point out, we knew all this. The
We-
data had
we,
been there.
We did.
No.
We did.
The
Everybody.
guy that you're talking about, the senator that he knew this.
Oh, he knew, but he didn't.
All this data was there. All the statistics were
It's
there.
all about political ego.
70% have no criminal records.
Right.
There's less than that have 30 actually have some form of
5.2%
record.
have a violent criminal
Yeah.
record.
So all that data is there. He did not care until it was election season. So him saying all this now is worse than than anything, because
Well, I
he
know.
knew and he didn't care, and he lied about it just because he wanted power. And honestly, Sasha was correct about nothing's going to happen to Trump because it is about political power at this moment, and they need MAGA to win. So what they're going to do is pander to MAGA and also try and
We're sorry.
we
We're
really
sorry.
yeah. It's all.
Well,
the
he
Republican Party
admitted
is
he
bogus
knew.
right now.
He admitted he knew that a lot of things were not right. He has admitted it. But he's like pandering I'm sorry, this happened. But they're not saying they're going to fix it either.
No,
There was not one word out of that man's mouth today that said he was going to make sure that this was fixed. And that's the problem I have.
Here's an analogy. Let's say you come home and you see your house burning and a dude standing right outside with a can of gas, and a match. And he says, you know what? I was just out here just playing with this gas and I lit your house on fire. I knew it was burning. I thought it was going to stop, but it didn't stop. But I lit it on fire. So I'm sorry I lit it on fire and let it burn down. I'm sorry you ain't got nowhere. You don't have anywhere to live now. But I hope you accept this apology.
There's been no accountability with the Epstein files. I hope that we start getting that. There's been no accountability, and there won't be for ICE being trained military terrorists against our own country. But the true enemy within is your president. And he's the one who spread fear about it against people who were not hurting you. But and I'll bring that video on tomorrow about what that representative said. But he said that we went after the wrong people. So, but that doesn't fix the problems. Admitting that you're wrong doesn't fix the problem, and apologies don't fix it either. So everyone stay safe until tomorrow. I'll see you tonight on the Epstein File Review, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Pod TV. We have added some new features, so hopefully you can text in from the website. Everyone take care, stay healthy, so you stay wealthy.